A Russian warship carrying a North Korean military command group was destroyed by Ukraine with a 1,200 kilo-guided bomb. Under the dense fog of a narrow bay on the Sea of Azov, Ukraine launched a lightning-fast and precise attack on one of the most secretive and dangerous military links between Moscow and Pyongyang. The target was the B-92, a 75-meter Bayan M-class vessel, which had just returned to port after a caliber missile salvo and was hosting a high-level advisory delegation from North Korea. On board were the entire fire control system, cruise missile launchers, and the command compartment, where North Korean officers, including a general, 2 missile experts, and a military interpreter, were assessing tactical operations. Worse still, the area was protected by multiple layers of air defense, mid-range radar, and electronic warfare systems, considered by Russia to be an absolutely secure zone, impenetrable to any threat. For months, Pyongyang had quietly sent personnel to coordinate battlefield operations with Russia, deepening their military alliance in the shadows. But at 03:28 a.m., it all ended in a single explosion. How did Ukraine know the exact moment the North Korean commanders boarded the ship? And how did they deliver a fatal strike without any warning? Don't take your eyes off the screen before the secret is revealed. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts on this battle. At 3:20 a.m., the Bayan M warship B-92 of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, valued at nearly $80 million, was docked at Military Pier No. 3 in the narrow Venoshki Bay, an inland deep-water area Moscow deemed invulnerable over 65 miles from the Zaporizhia front line. The ship had just returned from a caliber missile strike targeting military infrastructure east of Dnipro and was now in emergency resupply mode, refueling, cooling its engines, calibrating navigation systems, and preparing to reload 8 NK caliber cruise missiles, each worth over $1 million with a range exceeding 950 miles, capable of reaching any major Ukrainian city from Kyiv to Lviv. On deck, a group of Russian officers gathered around the command antenna array, working while awaiting a group of guests described in top-secret signals, high-ranking North Korean military officers. According to Ukraine's military intelligence analysis, the group consisted of at least 5 individuals, a general-rank commander, 2 missile technology specialists, a communications officer, and a technical advisor from North Korea's strategic artillery forces. Not only there to observe, but to evaluate the coordination of Russia's caliber system with Pyongyang's mid-range attack doctrine. At 2:47 a.m., specialized L3 Harris encrypted positioning signals used in battlefield communication devices began emanating from the satellite antenna cluster on the B-92's side. 5 minutes later, Ukraine's electronic reconnaissance system confirmed the North Korean group's presence on the ship through low-frequency radiation from a mobile encryption device. This meant the target was on board. Venoshki Bay, surrounded by low hills, was once considered a strategic steel pocket, a temporary staging area for reloading caliber missiles, safe from Ukrainian kamikaze drones and HIMARS. The air defense system included a Pantsir S-1 complex, 2 Podlet K-1 radar stations, and an active PKM-17 electronic jamming system on constant alert. Any foreign object appearing beyond 3 miles would be locked on. But that was the mistake. Ukraine didn't need kamikaze drones or naval special forces. They didn't need a high-speed attack. They waited. They let the North Korean group board the ship. They let the Russian officers lead them to the command room. They waited until everyone was at the epicenter, and only then did 2 1,200-kilo-grade bombs, equipped with armor-piercing warheads and inertial navigation, activate. They would fly less than 50 meters above the sea, slamming into the multi-million-dollar ship and obliterating everything in a single breath. No electronic warfare, no armed reconnaissance, just silence and a single firing order at 03:21. Because for Ukraine, when the enemy steps into the precise position, all complex calculations boil down to one action: press the button. At 03:21 a.m., in an underground command center east of Zaporizhia, the signal light switched from amber to red. 4 combat teams operated in parallel across 3 navigation screens, an orbital computer, and a geomagnetic interference analysis station. The target confirmation signal that the group had boarded the B-92 was encoded in the EBK-12 protocol, transmitted from an R-18 Bayraktar UAV circling over international waters off Berdyansk, about 90 kilometers from the bay. Infrared imagery confirmed 5 figures disembarking from a hovercraft and stepping onto the Bayan M's deck just 6 minutes prior. Simultaneously, a commercial satellite leased by Ukraine from the Iridium system captured radar reflection images of the ship's surface, showing the door to command compartment number 2 open, with interior lighting activated. No facial recognition was needed. No further confirmation required. They were in the exact position needed. At an undisclosed location west of Zaporizhia, 48 kilometers from the front line, 2 modified HIMARS launchers were camouflaged beneath the dilapidated storage bay of an abandoned fertilizer plant. Fake steel doors, optical camouflage coating, and 2 tactical navigation engineer teams in civilian clothing sat before control panels, eyes fixed on screens displaying low-altitude flight paths, upgraded from their original U.S. configuration. 2 1,200 kilocore GBU-56 bombs with penetrating warheads, designed to destroy ship decks and underground concrete structures, were loaded and sealed. They were fitted into a combined low-altitude ballistic and inertial navigation module, guided by terrain extrapolation algorithms. These units didn't follow the high-arcing trajectory of traditional rocket artillery, but cut through the lower atmosphere at 50 to 90 meters, passing through a radar blind spot in the southern Tokmak Hills, where Russian radar was obscured by terrain reflection. At 0323, the tactical weather station gave the green light. North Sea winds at 4 Midas, stable water surface temperature, no low-altitude clouds. Ideal conditions for a high-speed, low-altitude approach. Inside the main computation center, 2 data engineers made final adjustments. A +6 meter correction to Russia's digital military map, compensating for GPS errors caused by GLONASS jamming on the C-band frequency. Simultaneously, a Lelica 100 tactical reconnaissance UAV circled at 3,200 meters on the bay's edge, activating a simulated laser reflection mode, mimicking surface signals to guide the bombs if GPS was lost entirely. At 0325, the final order was issued over a triple encrypted communication channel. Synchronized Stage 1 ignition, simultaneous launch, confirm origin coordinates. The X-21 signal was transmitted. The 2 bombs left their launchers, producing almost no visible flame, using low IR solid fuel engines. They flew 67 meters above the ground, at near Mach 0.9, completely silent below the detection range of any ground-based air defense radar. By 03-26-117, the only early warning radar in the area, a shore-based auxiliary unit, still detected nothing unusual. The B-92's electromagnetic systems were in half-load mode, maintaining only short-range military communication channels during refueling and fire control system maintenance. The shift commander, Lieutenant Colonel Roman Petrov, was in command compartment number 1, 18 meters from the conference room. Meanwhile, in command compartment number 2, recently converted into a technical tour area for the Pyongyang delegation, officers stood around the caliber control console, observing a digital map simulating missile flight paths targeting Odessa. The North Korean members conversed with Russian officers in military-grade Russian, with the interpreter standing behind taking notes. No one saw anything, no suspicious sounds, no early warning signals. No one knew that in less than 45 seconds, the entire command compartment would vanish from the deck. At 032704, the 2 warheads, 21 kilometers from the target, approached from 17 degrees northwest, exploiting a low valley between 2 hills near the bay to completely evade ground radar. Each bomb was programmed with a distinct impact point. The first targeted the main command area midship, housing the guest compartment and combat bridge. The second was offset 14 meters toward the stern, aimed at the engine room and technical bay containing the caliber loading mechanism and auxiliary engines. At 03-2810, 36 meters above the water, the bomb switched from inertial to laser-guided mode. The Lelica signal was acquired in under 0.8 seconds. Automatic correction adjusted the trajectory by 1,002.3 meters, enough to pierce the titanium steel deck and detonate at the designed depth. No warnings, no alarms, no Panzer system activation. At 03-2814, a blinding white flash pierced the water, then vanished into the ship as if the deck had been punctured by light itself. The first GBU-56, weighing over 1.5 tons including its penetrating warhead, slammed into command compartment number 2, without detonating instantly. Its depth sensor calculated the precise moment to trigger the delayed fuse, just 0.15 seconds after piercing the deck. The explosion occurred deep within the ship, turning the compartment into a sealed thermal reflection chamber where pressure and shock waves reverberated hundreds of times in an instant. Everything inside, people, steel, equipment, documents, was not blasted outward but crushed, vaporized and dissolved in a superheated pressure cloud. Command compartment number 2 vanished from the ship's digital schematic. On deck, steel plates curled upward like a crushed can. A 200-kilodegree blast-proof door was blown off its hinges, smashing into the starboard antenna and plunging into the sea, dragging twisted electrical cables like charred roots. A 30-meter fireball erupted mid-ship, then dissipated in the sea breeze, leaving a thick black smoke cloud over the central command area. No warning sound was heard, only a deadly void and a silent explosion. Less than 2 seconds later, the second bomb struck from 41 meters at a 23 degrees angle, targeting the stern's technical bay, housing the missile loading system and auxiliary engines. It detonated amid the secondary generators, causing absolute mechanical destruction. Steel shattered, drive shafts snapped, the central stabilization system was ripped from its frame. A series of smaller explosions followed, pressure tanks igniting, electrical cables sparking, and air regulation valves torn apart by differential pressure. The ship began to list, first 1 degree, then 2.7 degrees, rapidly exceeding 4 degrees in under 10 seconds. Surviving officers in the forward compartment screamed into internal radios, but no one in the technical bay responded. Defense system status lights shifted from green to red, then flickered like aircraft warning beacons. The Pantsir S-1 didn't activate, its auxiliary combat control room had been obliterated with the stern. At 03:28:26, the engine compartment door exploded from within, sending a 3-meter secondary flame across the rear deck. The emergency fire suppression system activated, spraying CO2 briefly before being incinerated by the heat. A steel air conduit split in two, creating a free-flaming jet that scorched the sea below. Black smoke poured not only from the deck but also from humidity vents along the hull. The mid-deck temperature surged past 400 Celsius in 15 seconds, frying all unshielded electronics. In command compartment number 1, Lieutenant Colonel Petrov tried restarting the auxiliary navigation system, but the control panel was a smoldering mess of charred wires and broken circuits. He reached for the internal communication system, but the UHF transmitter lay shattered on the floor. Only then did he realize the ship wasn't just attacked, it was completely disabled. From afar, shore-based radars detected a sudden heat spike in the bay, but couldn't identify the cause. An officer at the Mykitika Naval Base raised the alarm, logging a brief internal report. Major explosion. B-92 lost control signals, suspected surface-to-ground strike. Within 90 seconds, a high-frequency satellite image showed the ship listing heavily to starboard, black smoke spiraling upward. A supply crane on deck was snapped in half. The Caliber missile in its launcher, not yet powered, didn't detonate, but its hatch number 4 was blown open, hanging askew. The wind grew stronger. The fire persisted. Any bodies, if they remained, were in an area too destroyed for identification. It all unfolded in under 20 seconds. No early warning, no defensive response, no chance for anyone to escape the compartment. This wasn't an attack. It was a strategic execution, carried out with smart weapons, absolute precision. At the exact moment, all targets were in place. Now, only a half-burned ship, a silent bay, and an eerie, lingering stillness remained. At 03:29:04, the B-92 sent a distress signal over internal UHF, intermittent and heavily distorted. B-92 hit. Command lost contact. Mid-deck destroyed. Need urgent assistance. That was the only message transmitted before the main communication antenna collapsed into the auxiliary radar bay, and all onboard communication systems went silent. Within 70 seconds of the strike, the ship designed to lead Caliber missile assaults in the Sea of Azov lost all combat capability, both offensive and defensive. By 03:30 at the Mykitika Naval Base, commercial satellite heat signature data was decoded. Infrared imagery showed a massive flame stretching from mid-deck to starboard. The stern engulfed in thick smoke, and the hull tilted over 6 degrees toward the sea. Data relayed to the Black Sea Fleet's tactical command in Sevastopol confirmed thermal sensors were offline, onboard radar was unresponsive, and the Caliber control modules sent no status updates. The entire Caliber operations chain from Vinoshki Bay was halted by a strike lasting less than 30 seconds. An order to withdraw all small warships from the bay was issued at 03:31. 4 Cerna-class escorts at nearby piers were directed to head northwest. Rescue teams were dispatched to tow the B-92 to port, but it took nearly 45 minutes to reach it due to shortwave interference from residual heat and electromagnetic disruption post-explosion. When technicians boarded, the deck was still warm, with lingering smells of burnt steel and CO2. No officers in the command compartment survived. No bodies from the North Korean group could be identified. Some were completely incinerated, others melded into metal debris. On the Ukrainian side, the HIMARS crews vacated their position within 6 minutes of the strike, per anti-counterfire protocol. The Lulakal 100 UAV returned via its pre-planned route, unpursued. All temporary laser guidance equipment was destroyed post-mission. No Ukrainian personnel were near the attack zone. No kamikaze drones were intercepted. No Russian radar detected the strike until the first bomb detonated. Russia's losses were undeniable within military circles. The Black Sea Fleet lost one of its 3 operational Bayonnem ships, its entire caliber stockpile at Vinoshki Bay, and most critically, a high-level advisory group from a covert allied nation. This wasn't just a strike on a ship, it was a direct slap to North Korea's presence on the Ukrainian battlefield. The personnel loss forced Moscow to recall foreign training groups operating in southern Donetsk. Technical coordination plans with Pyongyang were indefinitely suspended. The covert network Russia had painstakingly built with North Korea over nearly a year was torn apart by a single precise airstrike. Ukraine's strategy was clear: counter North Korea, not with diplomacy, but with precise firepower. The message was delivered not in words, but in hot steel and fire. Any foreign commander stepping onto a Russian warship within range of Ukraine's HIMARS or cruise missiles was no longer guaranteed safety. The bay, once deemed a steel pocket, was now breached. No Russian transshipment base in the Sea of Azov could operate without fear of surveillance. The secure rear no longer existed. By the 0415, the final infrared signal from the B-92's wreckage faded. Smoke lingered, but the fire had died. Ukraine issued no statement, no confirmation, no denial. But in the military briefing rooms of Russia and North Korea, the silence outlasted the explosion. As the sun rose over the eastern edge of the Sea of Azov, black smoke from the B-92's wreckage still hung in the air like a final smudge on a map once deemed invulnerable. No alarms, no interception systems activated, no one escaped. In under a minute, a warship worth tens of millions along with an entire foreign military advisory group was erased by 2 guided bombs costing less than a fraction of the ship's value. But what rattled Russia's military wasn't just the material or human loss, it was how Ukraine executed the strike, coldly, precisely, without warning, leaving no room for response. This wasn't a close combat UAV ambush, it marked a shift in Ukraine's warfighting doctrine, from symmetric defense to high-value targeted offense. Each strike now aimed not at equipment but at people, strategic links, and the nodes connecting Russia to nations quietly fueling this war. North Korea sent its people. Ukraine responded, not with statements but with firepower. From this moment, any foreign advisor, commander, or military expert stepping onto a Russian warship, whether in Sevastopol, Novorossiysk, or a hidden Azov Bay, would live under the shadow of a potential 1,200 kilogram bomb from the sky. No words needed, no warnings, just the right person in the right place at the right time. Modern warfare is no longer measured by the number of tanks or missiles left, but by the ability to see ahead and act faster. That dawn in Vinoshki, Ukraine didn't just see, they waited. And when the moment came, they didn't blink. If you find this story worth sharing, hit subscribe to catch more razor-sharp military analyses. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video, where every battlefield moment carries life or death weight.